Hey, it's Steve Grant here again, and today I'm joined again by David Behrens, and we're going to look at the subject of digestive health and also how mindfulness and meditation can actually play a role in supporting digestive health. So this is a really interesting, because I see a lot of clients with digestive issues, and I think it's often overlooked, that kind of brain-gut connection and how our mind, our emotions, stress, how all these things tend to affect digestive health, whether it's motility, whether it's the actual breakdown and assimilation of nutrients, whether it's actually how the immune system is able to, recognize things that are maybe not so good for us and be able to deal with those things. There's a lot of mechanisms at which we can experience imbalances within the digestive system, but a lot of the time we actually overlook the fact that it's driven by emotions, stress, things that are going on more up here rather than necessarily things that are going on in there. What's your experience with digestive health and the role of mindfulness and meditation?
Well, I think what you said already is absolutely correct. And it's our experience. We're holistic human beings. It's very rare that our digestion is hindered. We're feeling great. We're so happy. We have so much energy. Our mind's filled with wonderful thoughts. It's rare that combination is all there sometimes, but very rare. So, of course, we have to take care of the person. And I have found that 50% of what you eat is essential, and especially nutrition. But I believe it's only 50%. The other 50% is how you eat. And how you eat isn't just, it's how you are holistically in response to that food. What is your mindset? What is your emotions? What's happening in you when you're getting ready to eat? What's happening to you while you're eating? And finally, what's happening to you after you eat when you're trying to assimilate your food? And of course, we know the effect of our emotions and our mind and stress. And in mindfulness and meditation, you do learn the skills to eventually turn off the stress response and bring back, you can say, emotion regulation, where you can manage those intense emotions and feel settled inside. So often we feel things in the tummy. So that already gives us a clue. But it's interesting, we feel things. So there's emotions and there's tummy. And in mindfulness and meditation, you learn how to kind of get in a balanced state. And then you're able to assimilate the food more. And this is done through practices of posture. It's done with practices of what you fill your mind up with. You guide it before you eat. And it's also learning how to quiet down your mind and your sort of busy emotional world before you eat, during when you eat. And these are skills you can develop.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say, because like when I speak to clients, often when we're talking about nutrition, I'll often say it's why do we eat, how do we eat, when do we eat, and what do we eat. And they would often be the kind of the cornerstones of what I work on. But the how, I would agree, is probably the most important thing. And to some degree the why. Why are we actually eating? Like, what purpose is it serving? But again, that probably taps more into the emotional side of eating as well at the same time. Because in reality, our state at which when we're eating is going to influence our food choices as well. So even if we think that we want to eat in a certain way, if we're not in that present state of mind to be able to make a rational decision, I guess, it actually affects the choice of food as well. And then, like you said, it's that the impact of stress and how it affects the brain, and then maybe us having more impulsive decisions, as well as then how do we actually digest and absorb food when we're in a stress response state. One of the analogies that I'll sometimes use is, if you're a zebra running away from a lion, the last thing you want to do is sit down and eat anything, because we have to find safety first. It's one of the most important things. And if we don't feel safe, then how do we expect the body, I guess, to digest and absorb foods?
And you can create, we have to sometimes retrain the mind to feel safe within ourselves, to feel settled within ourselves. And we've lost that skill. Often when I teach in corporations, of course, these days it's very sad. Sometimes it's part of the culture to eat in front of your work and not to take more than 15, 20 minutes. And if you do, you'll still be in front of your computer.
Yeah, it's almost like lunch breaks are a thing of the past. I think grabbing stuff on the go and just eating while you're walking even has become so much more of a common thing. That sitting down in front of the TV and maybe not sitting down at a table or interacting with people around you, I think these have become such common things, but not necessarily normal, right? People see it as normal, but not.
Well, they've become habit. Like you shared the other day, going to a very nice health food shop or close by the clinic, and really good food, but everybody has at least 2 devices on at the same time while they're eating and talking. Now, it doesn't mean you have to sit and not talk, but this little bit of practice you can do. In fact, a little bit later, I'll share a simple practice on that.
Yeah, perfect. So I know from a digestion perspective, and I guess digestion and stress are probably the 2 things we're looking at here. Is symptomatically, you see a lot of the time with people is that they tend to, with higher levels of stress, they tend to have more kind of like food intolerances or sensitivities. There tends to be a higher occurrence of like intestinal dysbiosis, or imbalances of bacteria that might lead to bloating, distension, cramping, IBS type symptoms as well. Knowing that there's this quite strong connection with stress and digestive health, what kind of practical things would you do with someone to help? You kind of touched on it a little bit, but if we kind of look at that, what would we look at doing to try and improve things?
I think one of the most important things is that each day you learn how to get kind of re-centered and settled again. So many people are 24/7 that they lose the ability to feel settled in themselves, or as you said, safe. It's not about going in this faraway place where you lose consciousness. It's about being just present, safe, settled inside. And there's very simple practices with posture and breath and how you guide the mind, which is mindfulness, where you create that inner environment. Just like hopefully we want to eat in a beautiful outer environment, we have to think a lot about we want the food to be received in a settled environment, and that's done through practices. Yeah. It's not difficult. It could be even just a few minutes before you eat, or 1 minute.
Yeah,
will make a world of a difference.
So people kind of call it like mindful eating. Would that be kind of the term that you would use for this? Like,
yeah, you could take it as a very big practice, which is actually very powerful for healing, which is where you actually spend 3 to 5 minutes before you eat. It's what you do with your mind, and it's also getting in touch with gratitude, and also some breathing practices and posture, and also maybe also creating a nice environment. And then while you eat, you also, they speak about being aware of your senses and chewing rather than off somewhere, and you don't even know you have food in your mouth.
Yeah.
And then as a result, as we know, if you chew the food consciously and you're enjoying it, we know immediately all the enzymes come out. And then it also, much less acidity has to be built in the stomach because you're already preparing the food to be received.
I guess, I mean, you're on a very basic mechanical level, you're increasing the surface area of that food. So it becomes easier for the body to be able to digest and absorb, right?
Yeah, and you can just experiment it. Chew something twice versus 5 or 10 times.
Yeah.
And then see how you feel. Yeah. Sometimes you rush through a meal and you wonder, why do I feel funny now?
Yeah.
And you can always go back and think of how you ate. And of course, what you ate.
Yeah.
And usually it'll be 50-50 if you're not feeling so good.
Because I think it's a really interesting thing. Certainly, one thing that I'm very aware of with my clients is that oftentimes the food becomes the thing that they want to blame for their symptoms, and then they restrict and restrict and restrict because they're having these reactions to food, and before they know it, they're actually, there's very few foods that they are tolerating well. And when I see that, I don't believe it's an issue with the food itself. I believe it's more an issue with, one, potentially the environment in the gut, so possibly there are some physical imbalances going on. But also, two, why is it that food is almost not becoming part of the body? That it seems almost like it's being detected as an enemy in a strange way.
Yeah, and of course, sometimes there's many layers when that happens. and we have to do a little exploration. But the beauty is we can regain this healthy relationship to the gift of food.
Yeah.
I think in our culture now we have so much, many people, you know, it's all available for us.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's not being received and assimilated, and sometimes the food becomes, as you're saying, almost the enemy.
Yeah.
Or that's an enemy, but that's good, and then we're trapped in our mind. So it is about gaining this new and healthy relationship to our mind, which we do a little practice each day, so that a little bit before we eat and while we eat, the food is finally received in a healthy inner mental and emotional environment, and even with posture and even how we breathe in and out helps a lot sometimes.
Yeah. So another thing I've kind of noticed as well is that I think with this kind of the realm of food restriction and oftentimes labeling of food as good and bad, that in itself can create a lot of anxiety for people as well. And sometimes as well, even to the point of people can experience digestive symptoms. They can remove a food and they can sometimes feel better, but then the anxiety around potentially reintroducing that food in becomes in itself the thing that will probably drive the reaction that they have. So
trigger again.
Yeah, exactly. So rather than it being actually a physical reaction to that food when reintroduced in, it's almost they're so anxious about if it's a negative food for them. So I think that's a really interesting thing, trying to reframe that relationship sometimes.
Yeah, and that does take time.
Yeah.
We reframe the relationship to food, especially what you shared. The awkwardness is what our mind is thinking and telling us, and sometimes it is a past story and it makes sense, but we have to gain this healthy relationship to what our mind tells us in a general way. That's mindfulness.
Yeah.
And then we have to sometimes learn how to just, okay, my mind produces all these thoughts. Some are helpful and some are not helpful.
Yeah.
I have to learn how to choose the ones that are helpful and filter out the others and let them just be there. That's a skill. That's a mindfulness skill.
Yeah. And I guess, would that be something that you would work on with
we would work with clients. They would build a simple practice, even 5-10 minutes each day. They would practice also ways to prepare themselves before they eat in a really simple way that works for them. And also gaining that feeling, like you're saying, where they feel settled and safe. They have to taste that experience. And then eventually they know how to taste it or create it before they eat and while they eat.
Yeah.
So they have to taste it, meaning an inner experience, and then they have to learn how to get there, and that is done actually through building a bit of a regular practice.
Great. So I think that's really like amazing, interesting stuff. Now, in terms of doing a practice, should we look at that as something to do within this video, or should we actually just record a separate video that people can utilize?
Okay, wait one moment and we'll have a practice.
Cool.
A simple practice before eating. I would say the first thing you do before eating is you get comfortable. A lot of us don't even spend time. Yeah. The food is going to be in your body. It's going to eventually enter your body. So just get physically comfortable. It could take 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 minutes. If you're in a chair, it's about being present in your body and comfortable. So we can do it now. Of course, you might want to fold your legs or down. It really doesn't matter. Just feel I'm in my physical body and I'm sitting comfortably. Enjoy that feeling. It might be 30 seconds. I feel comfortable. The second thing to do is just be aware of with food. You hopefully have food that's attractive and nice to look at. So the next moment you would look at your food and you would just enjoy what you see. So hopefully you've made something with nice colors and it looks tasty, and you just spend a moment being aware of this delicious food in front of you, 10, 20, 30 seconds. Then you spend just being aware of your breath. Just enjoying breathing in, breathing out, and just feeling a settled feeling. And then you take your mind and you guide it to thank you for this gift of food. And then as you start to eat, you try to appreciate and enjoy the taste, the texture, and the quality of it. And of course, you're talking with your friends, that's fine, but every once in a while, take a moment to be conscious of chewing and the delicious taste. Hopefully it tastes good. And engage with the food, and then, not trying not to rush. Even if you have a short amount of time, maybe it's better to eat a little less.
Yeah.
And I would say, even before you immediately get up and run after eating, you take another minute. A few breaths, being settled, and then off you go. It could be as simple as that for starters.
Yeah, and that's that's a very short period of time, and most of it's just built into how you would eat anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's more that could be done. If you're at home, you can maybe create a very nice environment, but it is very simple. It's just think about inner and outer environment to receive the food and being present.
Yeah,
and build that skill when you're not eating to feel that within. So when you're sitting down to eat, you recreate it.
Yeah. How would that, because I know a lot of people would be like, well, I've got a couple of screaming kids around and different things like that. How would you sort of create that environment? Would you try and get the children involved to some degree in that?
Well, it's interesting. For many years when I was doing study, I was taking care of actually young people with learning difficulties, which were, they weren't, and it was amazing. They were young. We would always take a moment before eating. We put it back into sort of the culture of how we ate, where we just enjoyed being silent, even for 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah,
wasn't about necessarily it's beautiful, a prayer or whatever, but it could be as simple as let's just take a moment to feel settled. Take a moment to breathe in and out. It could be literally 1 minute.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. Young people like it.
Yeah.
Everybody likes feeling safe. Everyone likes feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
And then you're receiving the gift of food. And then, yes, you enjoy. And you enjoy it, of course.
Because I guess this it almost feels quite foreign to some people because there's so much
We've gone into, everyone's got to have the phone there and the TV on. Okay, you can have all that. You don't want to kind of change everything all of a sudden. But there's 1 minute of silence or quiet. It have to be closed eyes or a prayer or lighting a candle. Just everyone gets settled.
Yeah.
And children like it.
Yeah.
If they see you doing it, children will always copy what the parents and adults do. That's how they learn. That's how the brain is built, by what they see the parents do.
Great. So I think that's really amazing. So I think that's great tips for just around that meal time to get people connected, and whether it is to help with digestive health, whether it's to help with anything else. To be honest with you, I think it's just good practice.
Yeah, and also if you're more present and aware, as you were saying, you also know when to stop eating.
Yeah.
Which is a whole thing. We overeat, which is a whole thing because we're not aware of the body saying, I've had enough.
Yeah.
We're off somewhere.
Like we're quick, we're just thinking about other things, we're not registering really.
And we're also the body saying, I'm satisfied, I had enough, but you didn't hear it or feel it because you're not present.
Yeah. And then that kind of, I guess with that uncomfortableness afterwards, you maybe overeat.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm sure you have the famous, as we can talk about another time, the strength of a food diary.
Yeah.
And that's very important to incorporate some mindfulness in food diaries.
Yeah.
Because then you really gain intuitively what's happening.
And interestingly, when you look at food diaries, well, a lot of the time foods are underreported, probably just because people are in such a state of mind in which they don't even realize sometimes.
They're not aware of what's happening. It's not becoming overly aware. Sometimes it's just becoming present and aware.
Yeah.
And then you also gain the gift of what is good food combinations and good, actually healthy food for you that your body wants to assimilate. And also you get clues on, that environment, this situation was better for me.
Yeah.
But you'll only be able to know if you're aware and present, which is part of mindfulness.
Great. So I think, just to kind of summarize a few points there, we've obviously just done a short practice, but I think this video will probably all go into one in the sense that when we're looking at digestive health, I think we have to have a level of awareness around the impact of mind, emotions, our habits, what we do around food, because the ability to digest, assimilate food, and even just make food choices are often driven by our state, our presence of mind at that point as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this video looking at the role maybe of mindfulness and meditation within digestive health. We're going to be doing a few more videos on various other subjects, so we'll speak then.
And looking forward to meeting all of you.